What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Okay, so right now we are looking at Numbers chapter 31, and the last chapter had to do with vows. The couple of chapters before had to do with offerings, but just before that, there was a thing with some of the Israelites being led astray, well, being seduced first off, and then being led astray to worship other gods by the seducers. And I believe at the end of that chapter, God was asking the Israelites then to basically launch an attack against the Midianites, because one of the women involved who seduced the men of Israel, or at least one of the men, was the daughter of like a Midianite chief or something like that. So anyway, that I mentioned just because of apparent relevance to the current chapter that we're about to read. So, with context out of the way, let's hop into this. Numbers chapter 31. Then the Lord said to Moses, "On behalf of the people of Israel, take revenge on the Midianites for leading them into idolatry. After that, you will die and join your ancestors." So Moses said to the people, "Choose some men and arm them to fight the Lord's war of revenge against Midian. From each tribe of Israel, send 1,000 men into battle." So they chose 1,000 men from each tribe of Israel, a total of 12,000 men armed for battle. Then Moses sent them out, 1,000 men from each tribe, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, led them into battle. They carried along the holy objects of the sanctuary and the trumpets for sounding the charge. They attacked Midian as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed all the men. All 5 of the Midianite kings, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, died in the battle. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. Well, that's unfortunate that they killed Balaam. Balaam, come on. Balaam was one of the good guys, it seemed. But, they might not have known any better. But, yeah, that also might be why the whole Balaam saga was mentioned, about 10 chapters ago. But, that's a bit of a bummer if you ask me. Anyway, so, yeah, second verse, that first little section there, Moses is, not going to die until after this battle, but, anyway. And they only send 1,000 men into battle from each tribe. I mean, that's a relatively small force compared with the total that was counted before, because that was right near 600,000 in total. So yeah, we're talking 2% of the possible fighting force here? But even that seems to be enough to conquer the Midianites. So anyway, also 5 Midianite kings all died in the midst of this. Also, it doesn't mention King Balak in here. Although he was Moabite, not Midianite. Maybe that's why. Okay. Anyway, enough rambling on about that. This chapter's slightly on the long side of things. So, let's move along. Verse 9. Then the Israelite army captured the Midianite women and children and seized their cattle and flocks and all their wealth as plunder. They had burned all the towns and villages where the Midianites had lived. After they had gathered the plunder and captives, both people and animals, they brought them all to Moses and Eleazar the priest, and to the whole community of Israel, which was camped on the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River, across from Jericho. Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the community went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was furious with all the generals and captains who had returned from the battle. Okay. We'll get to why he was angry in a second. Footnote there at captains. Hebrew says commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. I guess commanders of thousands is what they're calling generals in this case, and commanders of hundreds are the captains. That's what I would assume. Pretty sure, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about military stuff, but I'm pretty sure general is a higher rank than captain. So that's what I'm gaining from this. Plus, I think that kind of delineates them a little bit better. It all kind of blurs together a bit more if you just say, you know, commanders of this many and commanders of that many. And maybe that's just me, because you're giving them all the same title then. But, so, basically they killed all the men, took everything else, and then burned the towns. So, then we get to verse 15. Moses speaking here, I assume. "Why have you let all the women live?" he demanded. "These are the very ones who followed Balaam's advice and caused the people of Israel to rebel against the Lord at Mount Peor. They are the ones who caused the plague to strike the Lord's people. So kill all the boys and all the women who have had intercourse with a man. Only the young girls who are virgins may live. You may keep them for yourselves. And all of you who have killed anyone or touched a dead body must stay outside the camp for 7 days. You must purify yourselves and your captives on the 3rd and 7th days. Purify all your clothing too, and everything made of leather, goat hair, or wood." Okay, so I guess it's kind of understandable in the context why Moses is angry about them keeping the women alive. 'Cause that the women, the Midianite women, are the main reason that they got into trouble in the first place. And the reason that God wanted them to attack the Midianites. Not entirely sure why the boys had to die. I don't know. I almost think it would have made more sense for them to just kill all the rest of the people, young girls included. This is one of those kind of gray areas in the Bible where I'm just like, yeah, that's not the kind of thing I would expect to translate into any and all situations. So anyway, and of course, purification's got to happen because of all the killing and whatnot, as per just the usual rules of, you know, God's commands. So anyway, then we get to verse 21. "Then Eleazar the priest said to the men who were in the battle, 'The Lord has given Moses this legal requirement. Anything made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, or lead, that is, all metals that do not burn, must be passed through fire in order to be made ceremonially pure. These metal objects must then be further purified with the water of purification. But everything that burns must be purified by the water alone. On the 7th day you must wash your clothes and be purified. Then you may return to the camp.'" So in terms of, taking the plunder, it's because it's coming from another group of people, it's somewhat assumed, I guess, that it's unclean, and therefore they have to purify it. With the metals, they have to, actually purify it as you normally would a metal, and then wash it. But all the other objects that would completely be consumed by fire, they just wash those. Okay. And then we get to the division of the plunder, starting with verse 25. And the Lord said to Moses, "You and Eleazar the priest and the family leaders of each tribe are to make a list of all the plunder taken in the battle, including the people and animals. Then divide the plunder into 2 parts, and give half to the men who fought the battle and half to the rest of the people. From the army's portion, first give the Lord his share of the plunder, 1 of every 500 of the prisoners and of the cattle, donkeys, sheep, and goats. Give this share of the army's half to Eleazar the priest as an offering to the Lord. From the half that belongs to the people of Israel, take 1 of every 50 of the prisoners and of the cattle, donkeys, sheep, goats, and other animals. Give this share to the Levites, who are in charge of maintaining the Lord's tabernacle." So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. Okay, so basically half of all the plunder went to the fighting forces who were in that battle, and the other half of the plunder went to everybody else. Save for the priests and the Levites. The priests got 1/500th, apparently, of the army's portion, and the Levites got 1/50th of the rest of the people's portion. Because the Levites were a lot more people than just the priests. So, if you're trying to give them a, relative share of it, then obviously more in total has to go to the Levites. But anyway, verse 32. The plunder remaining from everything the fighting men had taken totaled 675,000 sheep and goats, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 virgin girls. Half of the plunder was given to the fighting men. It totaled 337,500 sheep and goats, of which 675 were the Lord's share. 36,000 cattle, of which 72 were the Lord's share. 30,500 donkeys, of which 61 were the Lord's share, and 16,000 virgin girls, of whom 32 were the Lord's share. Moses gave all the Lord's share to Eleazar the priest, just as the Lord had directed him. Might as well read verse 42 here as well. Half of the plunder belonged to the people of Israel, and Moses separated it from the half belonging to the fighting men. It totaled 337,500 sheep and goats, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 virgin girls. From the half share given to the people, Moses took 1 of every 50 prisoners and animals and gave them to the Levites, who maintained the Lord's tabernacle. All this was done as the Lord had commanded Moses. Okay, so that's pretty much just getting into all the numbers of what we talked about in verses 25 through 31. Just saying numerically how it all got split up, what went to the priests and the Levites and to all the other people and that kind of stuff. It doesn't break down the numbers of what went to the Levites, but, just multiply what went to the priests by 10. Because it was 1/50th instead of 1/500th. So yeah, I guess that means that would have been 6,750 sheep and goats, 720 cattle, 610 donkeys, and then 320 of the virgin girls. Which, again, still not really sure why they and they alone were kept alive. Other than, well, I mean, I guess that also serves as a, like, hey, there's somebody alive other than, you know, our own people to tell the story of what happened. But, anyway. Then, I guess, we get to verse 38, and I'll probably just read through the end of the chapter. Then all the generals and captains came to Moses and said, "We, your servants, have accounted for all the men who went out to battle under our command. Not one of us is missing. So we are presenting the items of gold we captured as an offering to the Lord from our share of the plunder: armbands, bracelets, rings, earrings, and necklaces. This will purify our lives before the Lord and make us right with him." So Moses and Eleazar the priest received the gold from all the military commanders, all kinds of jewelry and crafted objects. In all, the gold that the generals and captains presented as a gift to the Lord weighed about 420 pounds. All the fighting men had taken some of the plunder for themselves. So Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gifts from the generals and captains and brought the gold to the tabernacle as a reminder to the Lord that the people of Israel belonged to him. So, yeah, it hadn't been stated in the previous verses about any of the, like, you know, metal stuff being split. It was only, like, the living things that it mentioned getting split up. But because of, seemingly, because of such a almost miraculous and certainly resounding victory, the commanders decided to also give a portion of the metal objects and dedicate those to the Lord. / give them to the priests, maybe? But yeah. I guess just they were also figuring, alright, well, we've gotten all this stuff. We're supposed to give a portion of everything we get to the Lord. So, just in order to make sure that we're not cheating God in this case, let's just give some of this stuff as well. Hebrew might have read more like, it will make atonement for our lives before the Lord, instead of saying it will purify their lives before the Lord and make them right with him. Footnote there, tabernacle just says Hebrew is the tent of meeting. Hold up. There's another footnote in here? Oh, because of the... Gotcha. So the Hebrew said 16,750 shekels out of all the, you know, I guess it was just gold. The gold the generals and captains presented, yeah, weighed about that much. So, anyway. So, long story short, Israelites go attack and conquer the Midianites, and then split some of the plunder, and not very many of the Midianite people were left alive. Because, you know, the people themselves were a big part of the reason why God commanded this in the first place, for leading them astray. So I guess that about wraps it up for Numbers chapter 31. Okay, so the Midianites were conquered quite easily, and now they're sorting out the spoils of war, so to speak. But I don't know if this necessarily was supposed to, like, serve as a precedent and or example for how, you know, the spoils of war would be separated amongst the people in other situations. It's reasonable to believe that might be the case, but it doesn't say it outright, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah, more peoples around the Israelites being conquered. More land becoming available, probably. So we'll see where that takes us as we read along. But anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that stuff. And leave comments down below with any thoughts you have. So that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.